Hello, everyone. Lori Swanson here, CEO of Inspire Tech, founder of Career Alchemy Academy, and your host for these live broadcasts that comes to you almost every week, almost every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Central Time, and where I talk about whatever musings and thoughts having often that come from not just my imagination, believe it or not, but from conversations I'm having with coaching clients, dilemmas that they're facing and how we are solving them, interesting stories, and many times coming from inside of the conversations that are happening in Career Alchemy Academy, which you can see the QR code over my shoulder. If you're interested in learning more about this membership community for women in tech and male-dominated fields, that this is your place to come together. It is not your typical career community. Yes, we talk about tactical and practical ways to approach a job search and to approach the elevation of your career and leadership presence and all of those things. But we also talk about mindset and our spiritual intelligence and, um, you know, burnout and connection, just all these things that make up a life. And so, and today is actually an interesting topic because I'm going to talk to you about how to create friendship vibes in your career and life. We just are coming off of here in the United States, off of Thanksgiving. And for many people, traditional, I guess that's, the fourth Thursday in, let me count. Yeah, the fourth Thursday in Thanksgiving or in November is Thanksgiving, a national holiday. But there's also something called Friendsgiving. And so became a word in the Merriam-Webster dictionary in 2020, but its real rise started back way before that in like 2007 when people, and I will say especially mainly women, started to create these Friendsgiving gatherings similar to Thanksgiving, but it wasn't necessarily by only biological, or let's say relatives and family. Maybe some of those people would be there, but not necessarily. But it's just a group of people that feel like home to you. That's what a Friendsgiving celebration is all about, is the gathering of friends in and together around a table, sharing a meal, sharing good times. And in today's live broadcast, I'm going to talk to you about actually creating a different type of table, similar, but I call it the friendship table, building a friendship table through the creation of friendship vibes. And so you're going to learn about what I mean by friendship vibes. We were talking about inside of Career Alchemy Academy, our touchstone, we have one every month. This month in November is friendship. And so each week we hit on a different part of friendship. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, those four parts, of which the fourth one is creating a friendship vibe. So that's what I want to talk to you about. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And let's get going, right? Let's get going. So the 4 weeks that we talked about inside of Career Alchemy Academy, the first week we talked about just befriending ourselves. Everything starts with us, with everything always, like I always say, your number one career tool is self-care. Like the thing that you need to focus on first and foremost of being really good at is taking care of yourself. And an extension of that is how you are befriending yourself, right? So we talked about, what it means to befriend ourselves, having kind self-talk, up-leveling our self-care, putting ourselves to bed at a good time, getting off the doom scrolling, being more deliberate about the type of programs we're watching and people were hanging around and finding fun things to do, nourishing things to do. That's what we mean by befriending ourselves. And then we talked about making friends as not a passive exercise, but expanding outward. And inside of Career Alchemy Academy, we were encouraging each other to reach out to old connections, people, old friends. You work at a company, maybe you work at a company 5 years, and you have this really tight knit group of friends, that you go to lunch together, and you're working on the same team, working on different projects, and then you leave or someone leaves. And when the central feature of, what do I want to call it, like work, that common thread, it requires effort to continue this relationship. And sometimes it's just was a work relationship, and that maybe there wasn't enough in common outside of work to continue the relationship. But many times, if you make the extra effort to connect with this person, you find that there's more common ground, and then you are going to the movies with them, and you're going on lunch dates together every once in a while, and you're having a party and you're inviting them, and it isn't just work friends. It's these friends that you've made over the years. And so making friends is not passive. You really have to make that a priority, right? Of connecting and reconnecting to relationships. And we did that inside. We went out, and it was one of the alchemists said, it was because of this touchstone that she reached out to a previous colleague of hers that came to mind while we were talking about this inside of a Career Alchemy Academy. And she reached out and she said it was just a delightful reconnection and a delightful conversation. And, selfishly, I guess, opportunistically, this reconnection, who knows where that could be the introduction to her next boss. Who knows, but that isn't why we do it necessarily. It's an potential outcome of it. But when you're really in that genuine friendship vibe, you're just doing it because connecting with people, letting them know you're thinking about them is so immensely important, immensely important. So befriending ourselves, making friends or befriending others, and then going in, really, we spent a week talking about work friendships and the magic and the struggle of creating and sustaining work relationships, and going from someone who might become an ally that eventually becomes a friend, the different levels, and I would say the real difference between someone who you're an acquaintance with and someone who becomes a friend is trust, right? And so you're building this trust, and this is both personal and professional relationships, friendships. They all start with, can I trust you? And, you're showing them that you're trustworthy. And that's the foundation that then builds a deeper friendship, a sustaining friendship, both in work and out of work. And then we talk to the big picture of what we can do to invoke the friendship vibe, this energy that can expand and ripple out of you into the people around you at work, into the people around you on the subway, that you don't know at all. I will drive my car like just to the grocery store, and when I'm at a stoplight and I see like the turn lane turning, and I will look at those people, like each one of them, and I will send them the friendship vibes, just to you. Friendship vibe to you, friendship vibe to you. I just love to do that, and I get bored sitting. I'm bored easily, and so it is a way in which and it fills me up with, just joy. So what the heck, such a simple thing to do at a stoplight. And so spreading that friendship vibe, because that friendship vibe has no boundaries. It has no limitations. You will never run out of the friendship vibe, the ability to give it. It is completely self-sustaining. Like it just, I don't know, it just keeps going and going. you get what I mean. And it just ripples out with every smile, with every extended hand, with every connection you make, with every thank you that you give, with every grace that you give to somebody in a moment, that tired, cranky person ahead of you in the post office line when you're trying to get packages out for Christmas. Extend them grace. That is a form of the friendship vibe. It doesn't have to be grand gestures, but it's your presence and your warmth and your curiosity about someone else and your consistency with people, this consistent generosity and consistent kindness that spreads the friendship vibe. So when we're talking about ways, we already talked about befriending yourself. That is a way to just sending the friendship vibes back to you, and then showing up and checking in and celebrating and paying attention to and sharing and doing small acts of, kindness to others is creating the friendship vibe. And by cultivating those friendships at work, by really, supporting them, choosing to trust them, collaborating with them, it creates belonging, the friendship vibe, like, setting healthy boundaries, just exuding warmth. All of those things create a sustainable connection at work, and that is a form of the friendship vibe. So to help you build, so now back to the beginning, right? When I was talking about the Friendsgiving and gathering people around a table that feel like home for you. So I want you to now, hopefully you're in a place where you can close your eyes, and we're going to start with some deep breaths. And then I'm going to walk you through a visualization where you're going to build a friendship table. And this friendship table is something you can go back to if you're sitting at a stoplight and you have a couple seconds, you will I encourage you to bring up this visualization that I'm going to share with you right now, just for a brief moment, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just like, even as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start with smell the flowers twice, blow out the candles, breath work. So this is and we do this inside of Career Alchemy Academy at the beginning of every session. It's this breathing in through your nose, smelling the flowers, filling up your lungs to capacity, and then one more smell of the flower. There's always just a little more space, right? And that is the reminder that your capacity to be with all the joyous things that might be happening in your life right now, that you can be with them, like you have just an expanded capacity to be with the joyful things. And if it's difficult right now, that you have the capacity to be with that as well. And then on the exhale, as if you're blowing out candles, but a slow exhalation. This is just reminding your body that, that you're alive, and telling your brain you're safe and all is well. And as you're doing these breaths, just 2 breaths in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, feeling yourself starting to relax, feeling more grounded where you're seated, feeling your feet more grounded in the floor, your arms, if they're resting on your desk or table. You're just feeling more grounded as you breathe in and breathe out. If you can close your eyes, please close your eyes now. I'm going to start to walk you through a visualization. So I want you to imagine that you're walking through a beautiful forest, and you're on a path that's very clear. It's just covered with the softest of pine needles, and that beautiful brown, rusty brown color of the pine needles on the floor of the forest, and these giant pine trees surrounding you on either side, and you can smell the scent of the pine, and you see the sway of the trees as you're walking through. You continue to take one step in front of the other. You're safely moving down the path, enjoying this peaceful moment. And then you notice that the path is ending and you're walking out into this vast, soft as velvet, green, lush lawn. You're so enamored with it that you immediately remove your shoes and you're walking in your bare feet on the softest lawn you can imagine. And you're moving towards a table, a round table that you see in front of you, not too far off in the distance. And your feet are grounding into the earth, and you're feeling through the earth's energy more and more grounded, more and more centered, more and more calm. And you know to take a seat at this round table, and you know that this is your friendship table. And you are going to begin to invite in friends. And you're going to do this through a specific invitation. You're going to be, as you think about friends, and when you go all the way back to your very, very first childhood friend, and then you move through your schooling and your work friends and your family, who are your friends that have passed on. You're thinking about them, and as they appear and they move towards your table, you say to them, "Hello, my friend. Will you join my friendship table?" And they meet you in your eyes and they say, "Hello, my friend. Yes, I will." And they sit down. So you're thinking about your first friend and your childhood friends. And hold on, I do have a cold in case you can't tell. And you're thinking about your middle school friends and your high school friends and your college friends if you went to college. I was so afraid this was going to happen. But continue to visualize. And if I have to jump on and off, you'll know why. Is doing so well. Maybe I'll whisper a little bit. Okay. So you're continuing to visualize friends, work relationships, people you knew, friends you knew at work that you haven't seen in years and decades, maybe. And you're inviting them in. "Hello, my friend. Please join my table." And they're responding, "Hello, my friend. Yes, I will." This table it just expands and expands to allow for all of the friends to join. It's infinite, this friendship table. And even though it appears as if the friends are far away at the table, but as soon as you turn your head towards them, it's like they're right next to you. These dear friends of yours. So continue to imagine your friends joining you. And you're also seeing spaces at this table for future friends you haven't even met yet. And you're continuing to visualize, continuing to imagine all these lovely, lovely people. And you're feeling the vibe of the friendship. You're feeling this generosity and this neighborliness and this communion, and it feels warm and it feels genuine, and there's like laughter there and trust and companionship and benevolence. There's a giving and receiving. It's so mutual, this friendship table, and you're looking around at all of these faces, and you couldn't feel more fortunate and satisfied about these friendships that you've created all of these years, even if they ended poorly for that period of time where you were their friend and they were yours. That counts, and that friendship vibe is available to you. So take it in, feel the vibe, feel the connection that's happening. And as we end this visualization, I do want you, if you can, to embody what's happening there and looking at all these wonderful, wonderful people that you have befriended and that have befriended you, teachers, special relationships, um, a babysitter. That was a friendship vibe, perhaps, Just be thinking about that. Maybe some pets sitting around outside the table as well, shining their ever loving, never ending loving light on you. This vibe you take with you as we move back away from the table. We move back down the path and you are returning to the present moment. You can open your eyes when you're ready. And I want you to remember that this friendship table is always available to you. You can always invoke the table, feel the vibe, and then extend it out into the world. So I will end there because I can barely talk. But take the friendship vibe with you. I'm sending out the vibe, all the vibes out to you, receiving all the vibes back. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week. And take care of yourself as I'll take care of me.